welcome to Off the Dome Sports. My name is Sean Militello. I am your host here at Off the Dome Sports. It's been a long time coming onto this show. I finally got my equipment set up compatible with the computer I've been using. So it should be a little better. Hopefully, I don't know. Let me know. Give me some feedback on that. Tell me how I sound. I want to make sure that I sound pretty good. If not, just let me know. I'm still working on some of my equipment, make sure it's on the right settings or not. But I just wanted to just do a simple show today on my birthday. Today is my birthday. Uh, and just talk about some Saints football. Obviously, that's what we always talk about here most of the time. We do cover the Pelicans, which that's coming up soon. We do cover LSU football and basketball as well. We try to keep up with other Louisiana sports as well. So we look at the Saints, Saints Twitter up in disarray this past week, especially after the second loss in a row against the Carolina Panthers. Uh, you lose to the Bucks 20-10, and then we go on to lose to the Panthers 22-14. Um, both games were very hard to watch. Uh, I was able to catch mostly, more of the in-depth highlights on YouTube. I couldn't find the whole game. I need to start recording it on Hulu. Give me some comments below if you have any good websites where I can go back and actually watch the whole game, because I was kind of limited to just the NFL highlights, the 13-minute highlight videos they have of the games, because I had to work these past 2 weeks. But I was able to scoreboard watch the game in our lobby where I work at. We have two TVs, but when we're busy, I'm not able to sit there and watch it. So I'm just quick glancing watching the game. So I want to talk about this game and just how disarray this team has been. We're not worried about defense here. Obviously, defense has its pros and cons, but honestly, that defense is good enough to win. They're good enough to win. They're top 10 defense. They might be the best passing defense in the league, I would say. Um, Especially when we haven't been generating any pass rush, which I'll get into that more to the accumulative of what I'm saying here. So I want to kind of take a deep dive in both of these games and look, maybe stack compare, because that's what I like to do. You could tell a lot of what the Saints are doing and what's going on and why they kind of lost the ball game or maybe win. In this case, the past two games has been losses. So, you look at let's go with game number two. Obviously you beat Atlanta week one. Uh, your feed keeps freezing, and you go sign up for and watch it there. So I got a comment here by Joshua Adams. Hopefully that's not a Wi-Fi. It might be a Wi-Fi situation there. Let's see. Maybe do a little better. All right. Maybe it'll stop freezing after that. Let me know if it does or not. But yeah, that's a good suggestion. Maybe NFL Game Pass, go back and watch. But you look at game two versus Tampa Bay, 20-10 loss here. Close game all the way up to the last 12 minutes of the fourth quarter is when you had pretty much all your turnovers. You had 5 turnovers. It started off with an Ingram fumble, and then you started off with right after that 3 Jameis Winston interceptions, and then the Olave fumble really didn't matter towards the end, even though I would say it wasn't even a fumble. But you look at these stats. Tom Brady, 18 for 34, 190, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Defense did its job. Hold them under 200 yards. They didn't have Godwin. And you also hold Leonard Fournette just for 24 rushes, 65 yards, only 2.7 yards per rush, 0 touchdowns, which is pretty good. You hold Mike Evans to 3 receptions, 61 yards. He had 3 big catches, but he was ultimately kicked out towards the end with the fight. Rashad Perriman had some good catches. He had that one touchdown. Tom threw it to him. The only one touchdown the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense was ever to produce. And he had Chris Olave leading in receiving yards and receptions. Not receptions, just receiving yards. 5 for 80, 16 yards per catch, 0 touchdowns, but he did have that one fumble. Michael Thomas, 6 for 65, 10.8 per catch, 1 touchdown. So you look at stats, they kind of mirror each other, 66 to 65 total plays. But you look right here, 6 sacks allowed, and 1 sack allowed for the Buccaneers. I think we only got 1 sack against Tom Brady, but we had 6 sacks allowed on Jameis Winston. So some would say the offensive line was better that week. And compared to week 1, it was better. I mean, week 1, there was all kinds of free blitzers. But, week 2, it kind of got to that way as well. But this time I would say week 2, the sacks kind of are more of, what are these guys are not on the same page with these sacks, because they're not picking up the blitzers like they're supposed to. There's always somebody free, and that's been the problem. I think week 1 they were just getting manhandled in the trenches. Now week 2 and 3 it's a little different. They're having communication errors, and that's something that's kind of a surprise to me, because we spent all offseason hyping up this offense, hyping up, Pete Carmichael, and I was the biggest one. I must admit, biggest one, hyping up Jameis Winston. And, you think they would take another step forward, and you would look at Jameis Winston kind of like, he's going to bring us to the promised land. He looks ready. He looks locked in. But, this team has not looked locked in. And it started in the 4th quarter. Once Mark Ingram fumbled on the 11-yard line, that kind of changed the whole momentum of the game right there. Because we were going to score at least 3 points, a field goal right there. Even if you don't score a touchdown, it's 3 points. That puts you up 6-3. So, I mean, the entire game changes that point. It's when he fumbles, Tampa goes. We ended up getting a stop there. So, we had a second chance, but now it goes for, I think he throws his first interception, at the 8 or 7 minute mark. And it just goes downhill from that, because then that's when he throws, Tom Brady throws, the touchdown pass for Rashad Perriman. And after that, we're behind 10-3. Next thing you know, Jameis throws a pick 6 to the house, and it just goes downhill from there. You're trying to play catch up. It's just not a good recipe, and we all know how Jameis is in catch up situations. Yeah, sure, he looked great week 1 against Atlanta, and you let that comeback, 13 for 16, over 200 yards in the 4th quarter. But I'm sorry, I think my dog got out. And my girlfriend's trying to get him. I'm sorry. But, yeah, I would say we have to get off to better starts in these games. We have to come out controlling the game. We cannot get down, when we create a turnover, we can't put ourselves in these holes. Or, this is where Jameis Winston struggles the most, when he has to dig us out the hole. That's what he struggles in. Now, we had 5 turnovers, so we allowed 6 sacks, had 5 turnovers. So that obviously that's your biggest difference in that game. So we go on to the next game, and I wrote notes for that game. Michael Thomas, he's ready to explode. I think we have to find ways to get Michael Thomas into games. We got to find him ways to get him the ball, because I think that the big problem here is we are going for the big shots every single time, and you know it's easy to blame Winston. It majority of the problem might be Winston, where he's not looking underneath, but some of his play calls, and these guys are there sometimes. He just doesn't make the throw as well. So there's many factors, but I just think the philosophy of how we are using Winston is just a little off here. We're trying to go deep every single time, and it's hard to look short when you're trying to go deep. When the objective is to go a deep at first, because you got these long developing routes. You got to keep your eyes downfield for that, and you got to wait for them. By the time you're at the end of that route, it's over with. You cannot look at your second, third, or your third or fourth option, which is your checkdowns. The defensive line's already there. So I want to see in the future, and this is what I'm going to say towards the end, the cumulative with these two games. What I want to see is more, short to high. Work your way, for a first down first instead of taking your deep shots early on. And I know you got the arm strength now. That's something that you couldn't do with Drew in his later part of his career. But, you have to set up the deep passing, 15 yards or more with these short passes or with a run game. So we look at game 2 as a 22-14 loss to the Carolina Panthers. Probably the more sloppiest of the game, I would say, because you go back to the Buccaneers game. That was just a hard physical defensive game. You go back to week 1, I would say the first 3 quarters were very sloppy, but I would say this was sloppy. This was pretty sloppy performance, although Jameis racked up 353 passing yards. But he throws 2 interceptions. Baker Mayfield only 12 for 25, 170 and a touchdown. He wasn't a factor at all. AK, he had 15 for 61 rush yards, 4.1 per carry. He did have that fumble return for a touchdown. That was a huge part of that game. Mark Ingram, he did fumble, but we were able to recover because fumble has been a problem these past 2 games. Ingram fumbled the last game against Tampa. McCaffrey had 25 for 108 rushing. But the thing is, we're able to shut him down in the passing game, which is when he's most effective. But he still had 108 yards on 25 carries, 4.3 per carry. It's something that I wish we could do with Kamara. When the passing game's not there, we need to be able to pound it with Kamara. If the passing's not there, pound it on the ground. Pound it on the ground until you get that open shot. Olave, big in the game. 9 for 147, 16.3 per catch. He was huge, especially after Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry went down. Now, I heard their injuries are short-term. It's not going to be a long-term deal, but we don't know if those two are going to be ready by game time, 8 a.m. in London. We'll see against the Vikings. Traquan Smith, man, he stepped up 4 for 105. You even had Callaway with that catch in the end zone. I mean, terrible throw, but awesome catch. If he does catch that, that's an interception. So, NT 5 for 49, 9.8 per catch. He leads the game, though. Their leading receiver for Carolina was Chenault. He only had two catches, though, for 9 yards, and he only had that 1 catch for a touchdown. It was almost behind the line of scrimmage. We just was missing tackles. But, the Saints win the total yards with 426 to Panthers 293. You had a passing yards of 353 to Carolina's 148. Rushing yards, Carolina wins that. They had a 145 rushing yards. Saints just 84. Um, we had 3 turnovers to the 0 turnovers. And we had 3 more penalties than them as well. Now, we only allowed 1 sack, which is a improvement. But they got pressure on us all game. They ran a 0 blitz. We were forced to get the ball out quicker, which, I want to point out in this game, we look good in the short passing game, and we don't go to it as nearly as often as we should, which I don't understand because you got guys built for that. You seen that the short passing game opened it up deep, and you saw Olave open. That's how he got 9 for 147. You saw in both of these games, you saw Mark Ingram had some great carries against the Bucks. AK, even though he fumbled in that return for a touchdown, AK had some good runs. So, I mean, I just don't know why we're not running the ball more. I just don't know why we're not attempting the passing short. I don't think Jameis struggles that bad in the short passing game. I don't know why they're so hesitant to go that way. And I don't think Jameis is that hesitant. I really don't. I just think if you tell him he needs to go short and he needs to get the ball out quick as possible, he's going to do it. He's just doing what he's being told. I just don't understand why we cannot do that. So you look at both ends, both games. We got to finish the drives, finishing drives. And then, Will Lutz has got to be better. I believe he's missed, 3 field goals this year. He's 4 for 7. I believe that's correct. He's looking rusty. This is something I wanted to point out here. The Saints are 10th in passing attempts, 10th in the league in team passing attempts, 38.7. We are 28th in rushing attempts with only 20 rushing attempts per game. Jameis Winston is first in air yards and first in air yards per attempt. We are fourth. We are fourth in rushing yards per attempt. So you look at that and you wonder, if we're fourth in the league in rushing yards per attempt, but we're 28th in rushing attempts, and we are first in air yards, I mean, it kind of tells you what they're doing, right? We're trying to go deep. I think there needs to be adjustment. I think you need to run the ball more, and you need to pass it short. You need to work the short part of the field, especially with Jameis's injuries. I don't think Andy Dalton, if you play him like we play Winston, I don't think he does any better. Sure, the accuracy might be better because Dalton's not dealing with that back injury, and I don't like to use that as an excuse, but I think everybody would benefit if we worked the short side of the field instead of going long, and I think we'd benefit with less passing attempts by running the ball more, control the game, let the defense do its job. Because what you're doing, you're wearing out the defense, especially when you're not getting any points. You're not finishing drives. Dennis Allen, I think he's trying. I really do. I think he's trying. He's still learning. The defense is still solid, but Pistol Pete Carmichael, I haven't been impressed by him. I'm a little disappointed. I think Dennis Allen will figure it out, but the thing is, one thing we didn't really talk about is this team is pretty old. One of the reasons why a play like that Chenault play happened in this poor tackling is these guys are faster, they're younger, and they're stronger these days. And I just think we're getting old. Demario Davis is getting up there in age. I think Pete Warner has hands down been the better linebacker so far this year. Cam Jordan has been great on the edge as far as a rush defender when defending the run, but his pass rushing has been non-existent. I mean, same thing with Marcus Davenport. He's younger. David Onyemata's getting up there in age. He hasn't looked good in the middle. as a run defender. He's your run stuffer. You cannot. In the past, you weren't able to run up the middle against Anyamata. Now you can. They were getting manhandled right there, and I honestly think maybe that's why the pass rush has struggled because we are having problems defending the run. Uh, Teams are not going to pass the ball nearly as much when they know the Saints are struggling on offense. They're going to try to control the game on the ground most of the time. And thank God this passing defense has been best in the league. Lattimore has been great. I will give him that, but he does make some bonehead plays here and there, starting fights or whatnot. But we just got to do better. This offense just got to do better. Olave has been the most targeted wide receiver on the team with 29 targets. Michael Thomas is second with 22. Take that for what we could take out of that. So, I mean, Saints are top 5 in pass defense, 26 in rush defense. So, I mean, we got the Vikings coming up. We're playing Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. It's going to be an interesting game, man. It's a chance to turn things around. It really could. They're a solid team, even though they came off a loss, I believe. I think they did lose, but we'll see what happens. I think the Saints, there shouldn't really be an excuse why we are 1-2. At the very least, I think we should be 2-1. At the very least, there's no reason why we shouldn't be 3-0. I mean, this is a good, talented team, full of veterans. Great, should be a great locker room. What's the issue here? I mean, these guys haven't been disciplined. These guys don't look disciplined. I just don't understand why you had the blueprint that Sean Payton left for you, or why aren't you following it? This is Sean Payton's coaching tree right here. This is his coaching tree. Dennis Allen is a Sean Payton disciple. Peyton Carmichael is a Sean Payton offensive disciple. He's been with the team as long as Sean Payton's been with the team. He's been the offense coordinator for 11, 12 years now. He started off as a quarterbacks coach. He's been Drew Brees' quarterbacks coach since 2003. So, I mean, I don't know what the disconnect there is. Chris Frischard, Ryan Nielsen, what's going on with the defensive line? That's more of a Ryan Nielsen problem. What's the disconnect there? Chris Frischard looks like he's doing a great job. So I don't know. Obviously, the main problem is offense. If the offense can just take care of the ball, that's the most important. I think that's the number one point. The important goal is to take care of the ball. Have 0 turnovers by the time the game ends. 0 turnovers. And I guarantee you your defense will give you a chance to win. I just take care of the ball should be the number one goal for this team. And then your second goal is to figure out how you can attack defenses with Jameis Winston as your quarterback with his bum back and now ankle. You need to figure out what best works for him at quarterback, because it seems like you're not going to put Andy Dalton in there, which I understand. But it's like, at some point, if Winston's not going to work out, what do you go from there? I think Andy Dalton was brought in as more of a insurance policy if Winston was to be hurt and we're on a winning cycle here. Well, now it seems more like Andy Dalton's here now to see if he could be the starting quarterback for the rest of the season, because it's not working out right now. And it's not completely Jameis's fault, but it's about 50-50 here. And it's just surprising to me that everything has been falling apart. So when we all expected better, I mean, I just don't see how these Sean Payton disciples can be this bad after 1 year. I just don't get it. But we'll see what happens against the Vikings. I will try to have one more show this week before the game. Maybe I get Mr. Bob Rose come on. He went to the Tampa Bay game. Um, so maybe I'll get him on and talk about some Saints versus Vikings on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. So that's going to do it here at Off the Dome Sports. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you want. But my name is Sean Militello. Check us out next time. Um, hopefully sometime this week. See y'all later.